Hello, today we're going to explain the last part of our project, which is named AudioCare Adaptable for Presbycusis. So our team is formed by me, Danna María Sequera. I am the general manager.
For the Cifuentes, I am the technology director. Juliana Molina, operation and normative regulation director.
Danna Hernández, marketing and sales director.
I finance director, Sara Rincon.
So we're going to have 6 parts in this exposition, this presentation. First, the unit cost and the cash flow, then the estimated revenues and the J curve and financial statements, the risk analysis for the sensitivity analysis of the company's value, and lastly, the investment proposal.
So we're going to start with the Boston Model Campus. Our customer segments are the older adults with Presbycusis in Bogota. So we limit our target with this form. In Bogota, the population is about 8 million persons, and about these 8 million persons, almost 1.8 million are the older adults. Of these older adults, we have that the 60% have some disease with the hearing loss. So about this percent, we have that only the 4% use some hearing aids. That because the accessibility of the devices, some of them the price, and the other 35.1% are the other adults in Bogota that have a hearing loss but don't use any advice for this disease. So we have a target of population that 9,600. That's almost the 1% of the population, the older adults in Bogota with Presbycusis. So we're going to use this target for making 9,060 hearing aids in the 60 months. So the estimated revenues, we have that our revenue projection provides a clear picture about the financials of our project. It's in a horizon of time that of 60 months. But we have something important, that is that we project all the 60 months, but on a third year, all the behavior is exponential, and we use this decrease because we are using a curve, S curve, and this year S curve help us to project in better form the estimated revenues and all the financial analysis. It's important to mention that the total projection of the 60 months are of 3,50,208,800 pesos colombianos. Or the population that we are, customer projection, we have the curve blue, that is all the persons that are going to buy our device, and the red curve is the persons that are going to subscribe to our app. This percent is about the 40% and the 50% of the monthly number of the customers in the month.
To the financial analysis of our project is based in identify and evaluate the direct cost, indirect cost, operating expenses, and the impact and their impact on the cash flow. And this structure allows us to understand how our project behaves under different stages of operation. So first, we start with the unit cost, the important raw material. It corresponds to the key electronic components that push in dollars. That means that depends of the exchange rate. The national raw materials, it confirms for components like connection or protective parts. Next, the machinery. It's important because it represents a part of the initial investment to start the production. And finally, the user manual and the presentation box, that it's important considered for calculate the full batch. Well, we continue with the unit cost. With all of us, we calculate the unit cost. That is 183,900 189. And that allows to estimate the direct cost. That it's really important to know the cost of produce each device. In our project, we analyze other costs like fixed costs or administrative expenses, such as salary, service, rent, and others. For a realistic model, we analyze that the annual increment of all of them. And for example, we use 80% to increase the salaries of the person, and if the production grows, have a new personnel. And now we're going to talk about cash flow. We analyze in a period of 60 months. But we only talk about some of them. In the first month, the sales equal 0 because we're not produce and sell devices in the first month. The direct cost corresponds to the production, but we have operating profit in negative because the that I explained. In the month 15, the sales increase, the direct cost to increase, and the operator 5 have a positive result, but it's mirrored that the spirit. And in the month 35, we, like my partner said before, we use the S-curve. So in the month 35, we have the most positive result in the operating profile with this result. And in the month 60, we can see that it decreased because the behavior of the curve, and we have operating positive, but the value going to mirror. And last, we are a comparison between an optimistic, probable, and pessimistic scenario. In the optimistic, we can see the months with a lot of sales, and the pessimistic, we have many lows, or the fixed cost have a big impact in our economic life, in our project. And that's all.
So now we're going to see the J curve. The J curve represents the project financial recovery path. So our initial drop, like my partner said, it's about 6 months that we're not having revenues. That because the certification, the supplies, and the operational expenses. But we have something very important that it's the break-even point for every scenario that we already said. So in the optimistic, this point is the 12 months. In the probable scenario, it's the 14 months, and in the pessimistic scenario, it's the 17 months. Every scenario drop around the month 36 due to the potential technology. We investigate and we see that in the third year there are going to be some advances in the technology that are going to make make the product not going to stabilize very quickly. So this is the probable scenario for the J curve for the probable scenario. We're going to see that in the first 15 months, the curve is going to negatives. This because to the supplies and the things that we already mentioned. But the breakpoint is here in the 14 months. And we have a path that is exponential, and we have a high peak in the 35 months that we are going to win our almost 30 million Colombian pesos. But we also have these J curves that we see that how the curve decreases. This is because we're trying to simulate very real the behavior. So something very important to say is that every scenario can happen. So in the optimistic scenario, we saw that we have a utility net that is very high, and also the peak comes very quickly, and the breakpoint is It's before that in the probable scenario. In the pessimistic scenario, we saw that it doesn't stabilize, so we can have a lot of losses in this point. But also in the two scenarios, even when we're going to try to stabilize, we're not going to lose it because the numbers are not negative. So in this, that is our lowest peak in this scenario. We also have a win that is going to be almost 10 million. So we're not going to, in any moment to lose it. So for the projected financial statements, that, like we already said, these are the values that are most important in our project. And in the year one, we're going to numbers negative. We're going to a lose of 70.3 million. But in the year two, we're going to have an expansion phase that is going to be of 30.5 million. In the year three, we're going to have our highest peak, and we have a consolidation phase that is going to be of 256.7 million. This is our balance sheet, is thinking about the ASINs increase as sales grow, and also that what we want is that in the third year and the next until the 5, there is going to be exponential, but we are trying to make this as real as possible. So they highlight how the cost, the revenues, and the financial interact to shape the company performance for the launch to consolidation.
We start with risk analysis. First, we did a risk identification, and ratio it beyond because it's a tool that enables the identification of probably problems that can impact our project. And also it allows us to make informed decisions, especially regarding cost, operation, and technology. Okay, to find this risk, we use a strategy that is the identification by categories because classifying the risk into categories prevents repetitions on unnecessary overlaps, making cleaner analysis and understandable. Also, each category allows us to be evaluated specifically and assign appropriate criteria for according to type of issue. Perhaps the category-based structures allows the team, the evaluators, or the instructors to quickly understand the risk and prioritize. For the risk identification, we use 5 categories that we find that could evaluate the project in integrate. The first is technical, and the question we try to answer is, can the candidate fail as a project? And the other category is economic. Can the project be financially sustainable? The other is technological, and the main question is, can the technology supporting the product fail? In the environmental classification we have, does the product generate significant environmental impact? And for the last one, the legal and regularity classification we have, are we meeting the regulator requirements to legally market products?
Okay, probability and impact matrix first. Traffic light matrix is green, good impact. Yellow is risk, and red is dangerous.
Okay, for the risk inclusion, we have that the category that means more danger is the economic with 24.1%, but with the mitigations and the flow of cash that we show us, we can say that this damage could be low. Then we have environmental because some parts of our human product are very damaging the environment with 22.7%. Then we have technological, but we conclude that if we say to the user how to use properly the hernia, this risk is going to low. And for the last one is technical and legal, but this don't mean seriously danger in our project.
Probable cause analysis. In the base scenario, the project finally solid, the VIM remains positive in a simulation. All the dependencies following interest rate, unit cost, and unity price.
So now we're going to talk about the company's total value, also known as the enterprise value. There are several ways to calculate this. We are going to use the discounting cash flows, DCF. This has a lot of advantages because it allows us to calculate the future flows, future cash flows of the company, discounting a certain amount regarding inflation and business uncertainty. And also, as we already did some progress in the cash flow, we consider it feasible. So here we have the formula. It consists of this, the sum of from 1 to t of FC sub n, which is the free cash flows of each period, in this case 60 months, over 1 plus I to the n, plus BR, which is the terminal value, over 1 plus I to the t plus 1. So here I is going to be the weighted average cost of capital, also WACC. This is very important because it's what determines that the result of all this addition is the enterprise value. So the WACC is a rate that companies use to estimate how much money they will need to keep financing the company in the future. For that we will need the free cash flow, and so we'll need first the EABIT, which is earning before interest and taxes, times 1 minus T rate, which is tax rate, and cost of depreciation and amortization, and minus the change or the increase in the net working capital, and minus the capital expenditure, which is cost of the long-term assets. So we have some consideration and assumptions we did for the operation. First, for the FCF, we have the tax rate of 35% annually. To start project, we will need initial capital of around 81 million Colombian pesos, which will mean a monthly fee of 2 million Colombian pesos to the banks. This is one of our expenses. Depreciation, we will consider only the depreciation rate of the machinery, 10% annually, times the fixed asset value. For the capital expenditure, we will consider the maintenance, as this machinery that we just bought is new. We only consider the maintenance and annual yearly maintenance of a value of 5% over the fixed asset value at the end of the year. And for the change in the capital net working capital, we only consider the inventory. This was calculated for each month. Then for the DCF, we needed to calculate the equity, which is the total assets minus the total liabilities. We consider only the actual fixed assets value, the inventory and the cash as assets, and liabilities only the monthly fee to the banks. We estimated that to estimate our WACC as my partners explained previously, the behavior of our sales is not like stable, so we have to calculate it for each year. Here are the percentage per month, and a long-term growth of 2% annual to calculate the terminal value. This results in 3 case scenarios, most likely optimistic and pessimistic. The most likely, we have here the net utility and enterprise of around 912 million Colombian pesos. In the optimistic, we have 1,310 million Colombian pesos, and in the pessimistic, 308 Colombian pesos for the enterprise or the company's total value. Finally, we have the proposal for the investors. To begin with, we will need around 81 million Colombian pesos to start our project, and for this we have 2 proposals. The first one, it will be 50-50 in terms of finance, 50 for the investors and 50 from loans in banks. We will offer 0 shares in our actions to the investors, and dividends of 30% annual starting from the second year, because the first year will not give us an utility yet. The TIR is approximately 20% annual, and the revenue after the first 5 years is 41 million Colombian pesos approximately. The second proposal is 70% from investors, 30% from loans. In this, we will offer a share of 50% dividends of extra 5% in the dividends in the first 5 years after the second year, a TIR of 25% annual, and a revenue in the first 5 years of 69 million Colombian pesos. This is all we needed to talk to you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.